really thank Mr. Onashile. From his paper, it's shocking that about 70% of the registered firms are not trading. Reason being that some of the principals are still either in employment elsewhere or government officials or those in academia and so on and all that. You know, I am sure our participants are very impressed and encouraged by the growth of your practice, you know, the organic and inorganic and all that. You know, the practical experience that you've brought in now, you know, which include increasing capacities, gaining competitive advantage, diversifying product and services, replacing leadership, cutting costs, surviving, well noted. You've also mentioned the transaction success factors, pre-transaction success factors, post-transaction success factors, macroeconomic success factors, and why mergers and acquisition deals fell, apart from lack of trust. You know, I'm so impressed. And I want to also remind you that when you were chairman of Lagos State chapter, you brought in a renowned construction lawyer. I think Roger Knowles. Yeah. And he mentioned that even in a Go Hotel, a detrimental reliance on oil by our patrons, which is the government. You know, and I'm so happy today that you've mentioned that you don't do government, you know, if you have your way. You know, and I want to implore that other practitioners, you know, should also look at that aspect. We all can depend on one source of patronage. So thank you so much. During the question and answer session, you will dwell more on your paper. But meanwhile, all presenters should look at the screens and check the Q&A sections and take down so that we'll save time. So I will be repeating the questions. Thank you very much. We'll quickly move to the last presenter, Barrister Q.S. Ifeanyi Anago. Ifeanyi is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors and the past chairman of Fellows Forum of the NIQS. A fellow of the Institute of Construction Industry Arbitrators and solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. He was a federal government nominee to the QSRBA and was chairman of its accreditation committee responsible for certifying all quantity surveying educational programs in the Nigerian universities and polytechnics. He is a construction industry resource person, having authored over 40 papers in various construction-related topics. Under divine inspiration, he propounded the concept of mediative conciliation as a dispute resolution model in the construction industry, which model has been adjudged by the Community Relations Service, CRS, of the United States of America Department of Justice as the best model for resolving school-based hate crimes in the United States of America. This novel concept has been trademark patented as Anago Mediative Conciliation and certificate number 92036 was issued. Mr. Ifeanyi Anago was the first vice president of the Society of Construction Industry Arbitrators. Today, he will be talking to us on the sub-theme, imperatives and legal framework. Take the floor. Unmute. We're not hearing you.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, you can start all over. Not hearing you. We're not hearing you.
If you must unmute your mic. Aha.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity to interact with our panelists and those who are attending this awesome program. Beginning with the capone of them all, and his very exciting presentation, followed by QS Aliu Muratala, the president of the board, and then my very good friend who made the last presentation, Onashile. I'm so glad that I'm not appropriate to speak so much, because they've all covered the large bouquet of what I ought to have spoken in terms of what constitutes merger and acquisition, which are two different concepts. Merger having to do with two companies in the same marketplace, almost at the same level, combining together to create an increased market share, as it were. Acquisition, and so on and so forth. And all those things have been defined properly in the paper that I presented. And I think that after this seminar, it should be given out to people for the details. Time is against us, so the issue of going through the paper line by line will not be applicable here now. So one thing that is so clear is that there is a new normal. That new normal is the buzzword, merger and acquisition. That the days and months and years of single proprietorship is over. We can make too much progress with that. And as I was listening to Segun Agenekoko, I heard him say something that we hardly note. That yes, we could go horizontal. We could merge with practices in Nigeria, domestically or abroad. But let's not make the mistake of assuming that there are jobs there for us, absent of collaborating partners in those places. I discovered from my own small experience in legal practice, visiting outside the country, that most of the people who are targeting you or me for collaboration are looking at Nigeria's market. They believe that the market is here. And so at the back of our minds, we must understand that the people we are dealing with, they believe the market is here. So it implies that whatever collaboration mechanism we're putting in place, we must all know that we must find a way of safeguarding our own interests in the amalgam. Otherwise, we'll be left with empty cans. I've seen a situation where I advised a local hospital to go into a merger with an Indian hospital. And we sat down and agreed on all the terms. Suddenly, and they signed off. Suddenly, when the hospital began to do well, the Indian company now wanted to buy out the Nigerian company. Say, how much can we pay you so we can exit, we take over? And we said, over our dead bodies, cannot happen. They said, because in other places where they have this eye hospital, in Mauritius, in Ghana, they are the 100% owners. Because once they saw the prospects, greed came in. But for the fact that we have signed agreement that is documented and registered, it would have been a different story now. So I will say quickly, in every dream or prospect of either merger or acquisition we're focusing on, let us open our eyes to the legal requirements and make sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, so that when the thing begins to boom, we're not left carrying the empty can. So the speakers have already spoken, actually, about what makes a merger, what makes an acquisition, the philosophies, and it's so clear that part of what is causing mergers and acquisition to fail in Nigeria is lack of trust. Lack of trust because we do not actually want to cede control. We think that we can still own 100% of nothing and make progress instead of 2% or 1% of something, as it were. But what has happened now, thank God for COVID-19 pandemic, has opened our eyes to the fact that the whole world has gone virtual. While you're still trying to hold on to your practice as your brand, your name brand, others are already migrating to other things big. So I'm so happy that our previous speaker spoke so confidently. So my job now is just to tell us what are the nitty-gritties of law, not the philosophy, not the ethics, not the advantages, the extenuated advantages, but what are the nitty-gritties of law that will make a merger or an acquisition or other forms of alliance work in Nigeria. I'm sure that Ajane Koko, with his experience, his robust and wide experience on coupling arrangements, knows about the principles of the law that has helped them to stand the time and withstand competition and not dissolve, as it were. Even Onashile, that began with coastal associates and then enlarged the scope. I'm sure that undergirding those enlargements, there's a document that is signed. Everybody being on the same page that is making their relationship work. What am I saying? It is important to, as you begin to think about the prospects of merger and acquisition, which is real, is very real. Also know that what will drive the process competently has to do with the law that binds the parties or partners together. If you get it wrong there, then the whole thing will crumble. If you get it right there, then you will smile your way to the banks, as we all know. Right now, they say we are over 600 firms registered with KSRBM. And most of those firms are micro firms, one-man firms that can't even render any kind of different services other than the one we call return, fail, and RAM. And return, fail, and RAM today is no longer the going stuff. It's no longer the new normal. It belongs to the old normal. So we must now begin to think about ways of those who own those firms making up their minds to say, number one, we are tired of playing singly. We are now interested in enlarging the pie so that all of us will go home with something better. So the philosophy or the psychology or the culture of partnering, if not partnership, has to change. If we don't do that, then all the exterior arrangements and coupling together of practices, whether by alliancing, whether by partnering, whether by JV or human beings operate those documents and accept there's integrity and honesty and everybody being on the same page, we may not get it right. Now, the first question, like I said, I'm not going to go to issues of horizontal merger, vertical merger, and conglomerate merger, because those ones have been defined by the prior speakers. I just want to let us know that if we're talking about Nigeria, if we're talking about coupling these things together, bringing offshore expertise, and then creating a combine or an amalgam with which you can pitch for big projects in Nigeria. Thank God that now evidence of the domestic private sector being able to sustain businesses is obvious. Over 90% of surveyors who are practicing depend upon government patronage. And when the patronage dies, will dry up. So I thank God. We may have to resort to these our principals, these are big guys who have succeeded, for them to let us know the secret behind their success. We're not competing with them all. We're just asking, oh guys, the crumbs that fell from the table, dog there now make a job. There are so many young people who have abandoned practice because it's not favoring them anymore. I started my practice focused on government. And by the time reforms came and we thought that the government was serious, they say bring a technical proposal, bring financial proposal, and you thought that after all the qualification requirements, that they will be fair and objective. No, sir. A number of those projects they advertised by the government, internal journal, has been given out before they came out with the internal journal. So people are actually answering the thing from question to answer. And from answer to question, backwards integration. So I just hand stop. So the issue now for me, actually what the legal practice is doing for me is much more than what the consumer practice is doing. But happily and beautifully is a combine that when somebody requires expertise in a particular area that combines both QS and law, they will remember us. But it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that. There's a QS firm in Nigeria that I'm alliancing with. And we're rendering cost engineering services for a big mega hospital in Abuja. And somehow, the banks were not willing to cooperate. And so The case, my partner called me, said, sir, we have these partners in Ghana who have gone beyond conserving services, gone beyond pure QS, cost engineering, who are now into financial engineering. And there's an agreement. So we set up to Ghana. When we got there, we found that the quant surveying practice is the one leading the team of financial syndicators. So it's an example of what can happen when quant surveyors step outside the box and stop thinking in terms of what architects give to me to do, what engineer gives to me to do. We're all collaborators in the venture of success. Each person having his own core competence to contribute along the line. So we're saying that mergers and acquisitions, the time has come. In Nigeria, classically speaking, the law governing mergers and acquisitions are the Investment and Security Tribunals Act. That is a global law governing mergers and acquisitions. Of course, there are other collateral laws depending on the subject area, like the banking law, like the insurance law, the company profit law, but it is actually the focus of the merger and acquisition that determines the kind of law that is applicable. And I discovered from practice that the merger and acquisition in Nigeria is governed, in fact, actually directed majorly at the corporates. They have only a few things to deal with business name and other small combines. It is corporates, limited liability companies they're focusing on. And by the regulations established by SEC, there are three categories of mergers and acquisitions. Number one is the small category, where firms whose combined turnover or asset base is less than 1 billion, and they want to merge. And that is, I suspect that's where most of our firms belong. And they want to merge. The law says they can arrange their merger and acquisition without seeking SEC approval, except if SEC views that merger and acquisition as anti-competition and a route to establish a monopoly. Then they can intervene and ask some questions. Otherwise, if you are asset base, the turnover combined is less than 1 billion naira, you can register by whatever amalgam. You can decide to say, okay, let's do alliance. Let us do partnering. Let us do JV. Let us do whatever it is in-house. Agree on basics. Like I said, if you're doing JV and those offshore companies are coming here, they are enabling you with capacity. Remember, the market is here. So in negotiating and arranging with them, just make sure you have a simple majority. Just make sure the shareholding structure and the equity structure, as it were, favors you, even if it's by 1%. Because if they have business in their own place, they won't live there and come here. Nigeria is an emerging market. And I can tell you, very few countries in the world today, even with our problems, return the kind of return on investment we have in Nigeria. Somebody has said that after COVID-19 lockdown, that Nigeria is the next zone, the next route, the next destination of investments. Most of the markets abroad are already mature. People do business with 5% profit margin, 2% profit margin, sometimes 0% profit margin, because they want their companies to be sustainable, resistant until things improve. Nigeria has other percentages like that. So despite all the risk, all the Boko Haram, all the instability, all the bandits, they are coming here. If you doubt me, if you're in Abuja, before the lockdown, I don't know whether you experienced it, planes going to Maiduguri are almost oversubscribed on a weekly basis. And if you enter into any of those aircraft, more than half of those who are there are white people. What are they doing in Maiduguri? It's because there's business there. Even though there is debt there, the risk of business is higher than the risk of debt. So let's understand that. So if you are somebody whose combined turnover or asset base is like, and the person you are targeting is less than 1 billion, you can enter into merger without seeking approval of SEC and arrange it the way it suits you, and go to CAC and file a new documentation, better as a limited liability company, so that it will outlive the subscribers or the directors. That is a new way to go, as it were. There is also what they call intermediate range of merger and acquisition. And that is for those who combine turnover or asset base is from 5 billion, from 1 billion to 5 billion. If you belong to that category, it means in all these years of suffering, of hardship, you are still making some good money. 1 billion is not a small amount of money. 2 billion is not. So if you're from 1 billion to 5 billion, SEC says you are now under the net of SEC. You must seek approval. I have outlined all the requisite step-by-step protocols for seeking approval. Number one, beginning with the board of directors of the two companies and companies themselves, having a resolution to merge. And then writing to labor group that the members of the company subscribe to, asking for approval. And then filing all the papers to CAC, asking for CAC's approval. And CAC looking at the whole documentation, looking at also anti-competition laws, and giving you approval. And then telling you to write to the court, so the court can sanction a compulsory board meeting of the company. Not just a compulsory board meeting, but a compulsory meeting of shareholders of the company, where at least 5% of those attending will agree to the merger. When that is done, then you go back and file the document to CAC with SEC. SEC will now ask the court to sanction the merger. And once the court sanctions it, it becomes a new entity. It can be either two names combining to A plus B, giving right to C. Or if it is acquisition, then A plus B, giving right to A. Because one company has followed the other. But they have to need to restructure the internal management and operations as it were. So those are that. For companies above 5 billion, wow, they're the big guys. You must register with SEC and follow the whole protocols required to be able to get approval, get a sanction by the court, and so on and so forth, and then emerge as a new company all together. The same protocols for acquisition is similar. But the whole thing about acquisition is that the offeror company, the company wanting to acquire another target company, has to fulfill all those requirements and get to SEC and register their interest. When everything is clear, then they can now reach out to the target company they want to acquire. And then those target company will now consider whether they want to be bought over, to be taken over, or to come into a relationship with this new company, as it were. The reason being that either they are looking for new markets, either they are looking for new competencies, either they are looking for economies of scale, and so on and so forth. So SEC, by its regulations, have all the protocols. It's in this paper that you must follow to be able to organize a merger and acquisition. But let me tell you something. Don't carry the paper and scratch your head and say, I'm an expert in merger and acquisition. I'm a QS. And then by yourself, you begin to write things up together. Get a competent lawyer who will navigate the process with you so that when the chips are down, you are not so changed. It is so crucial and so important. The various methods of merger and acquisition has been outlined before. Joint venture, dissolution and transfer, or affiliation by amendment, where an endangered party, an endangered company, does not want to stand alone, but amends its articles of incorporation to allow another company to appoint all its directors without assuming liabilities for its prior debts. So all these are all there as ways and means. So it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. This will not be the first time, even though corporates are targeted. We have seen merger and acquisition over the past 10 years involving banks and so on and so forth. The latest being what has happened between Diamond Bank and Access Bank, where they compared and contrasted their relative advantages and decided to merge, adopting one name and keeping one logo, adopting the name of one company and the logo of another company, and so on and so forth. There are so many varieties of that kind of arrangement. The important point is that everybody who is involved must be on the same page. The important point is that there's a need for a restructuring of our mental culture to know that the bigger, the better. So practically speaking, even our uncles, our elders, those who have gone from local to international, will also give us practical guide. Yes, the law is an ass. Sometimes the law, when you push it in Nigeria, instead of going right, it will go left. You now require court intervention to now tell us what the law meant to do, whether to go right or to go left. But the world, that's where the world is going. I had an interesting experience as I visited the biggest construction law firm in the world over an issue. I was appearing at a tribunal as an expert witness, and I needed to research some issues. I had to go to that law firm, the biggest. Because in the sense that if you come to the street where they are, there are other multi-business law firms with 100 partners, law firms with over 100 years age, old, all under one street. But one thing that made kitchens different, kitchen chambers, was that they practice only construction law. Only construction law. And I'm advising even our young ones, don't become omnibus practitioner. Look at one aspect of our practice where you can acquire competence in. So if you are combining with somebody else, you are bringing an extra competence to the table that will define the new normal, the way forward. So these guys, all their partners are professors in King's College teaching. And so they are all there. So when I got there, and they gave me their library to do research, and I was doing research, my daughter was there helping me to do some research. And we continued to late in the night. Because there were issues I will raise. My daughter will ask me, check this House of Law decision. Is the letters on it? In fact, incidentally that day, we're looking at whether business or contracts should be interpreted literally or with business efficacy. And that was a turning point in this, the arbitration we're dealing with, an ICC arbitration. We saw several authorities saying, no, you must go behind the letters of the contract and find out what the parties meant. And other ones will say, no, the parties are mature, they are adult, interpret their intention by the letters. So as this were locating this and locating that, she now found the latest decision that says, no. Parties are mature and adequate to take care of their interests. Interpret the contract literally. So when I saw it, I just wired technology. I just wired that case to my legal team in Lagos. Say, this is the latest House of Law decision. Since in Nigeria, if we don't have a binding decision, we can look up to Europe, UK, look up to Canada, look up to Australia for a persuasive precedent. As we were coming out that night, it was late. But the office was still on. The office was still on. So I asked the security man, I said, the office is still on? He said, yes, because when it is morning in London, it could be night in Singapore and afternoon in Malaysia. So everywhere we have an office is a 24-hour business. I said to myself, that is it. That is the new normal. So people, when you get the paper, all the protocols, over 20, it will give an understanding of what is required if you want to do measure. What is required, or let me say it again, it is not rocket science. What it takes is boldness. So as I was listening to our elders, my heart was just beating. Say, if they can, so we can. If they can, so we can. If they can, so we can, especially the young ones. At 64 plus, I'm not wanting to go to the moon again. All I'm trying to do is to build the younger people, equip them with capacity to fly where I could only walk. In conclusion, can I say something like this? I said the SY approaches known to construction services professionals or the 7 regulated built environment professionals are multidisciplinary practices where different firms are already defined with cognate competencies merged under a single integrated leadership to provide a one-stop shop for an envelope of services. And then the second is consortium or consortia, where firms come together to combine as a consortium. And the leaders or the lead team leaders of those firms or the partners of those firms constitute kind of a leadership. either for a project or repeated basis. And I said that what Morutala Aliu, our president, has spoken was the first time, to my best of knowledge, that there was a program to coerce firms to work together during the PTA program. And I said to myself that if that program had continued, if the Southern government had marketed it and insisted that instead of dealing with small one-man businesses, if you want to be trained by them, come as a combine, that would have created a new normal since that time. That will make it easier for us now to go into businesses, combining our very powerful professional competencies so we can make progress. But it didn't continue. And so, construction subsector is still contributing, construction services subsector is still contributing, version itself is contributing just 5%. You can now begin to assume, understand, appreciate what construction services subsector is contributing. In other places, services sector is the in thing. When are we going to arrive? That's the question. And I'm focusing the question on the young ones. As we think in terms of thinking outside the box, some of us are going to migrate from actually cost engineering to add financial engineering, get people who have competencies, agree with them, and then form a combination that will also go for funding for projects. You mentioned what happened in the early 90s. When they funded projects, they got ADA funding for Sokoto Hospital, for KB Hospital, and for Kaduna Hospital. They were just pre-investment consultants. They went, put themselves together, and bidded, and got the job. Me, I was working as a consultant. So I took part in the one of Sokoto and in the one of KB. And my experience from that Sokoto and KB under Afri Project Consortium was that, people of God, when things are done properly well, my fee on that project was second only to the architects. Our global fee at that time, 1991, 92, was about $1 million. Architect was 2.7 million. I was 1.9, as it were. Social engineer was 1.6. Mechanical and electrical, 1.3, 1.2. So because the issue is 1 month, nobody's going to look at a scale of fees. No. Was in England. They say it's against Unfair Trade Practices Act. It's illegal on site projects and end it when others have exited. We are there at not just completion, we're there at commissioning, we're there at defense liability. Because that is where you saw, I keep saying it, you saw an ant, and you reap an ant. You saw an elephant, you reap an elephant. So that's where we're going. Other current arrangements include alliancing and partnering, where firms honestly or loosely collaborate to exploit critical competencies to achieve proficient services delivery. The crucial and critical driver is core change in professional services delivery culture and practices. The days of strict sole proprietorship are over. The world has moved on to collaborative arrangements that enhance efficiency and effectiveness of services delivery. People of God, listen to me. Pacific Ocean is already before us. And small canoes that ferried us across the River Niger are now no longer needed. They are obsolete. Let's collaborate. Let's restructure. Let's adapt. And if possible, let's adopt. And the time to begin is now, thanks to COVID-19 pandemic. I will stop here. But I want to encourage us, when you get this paper, if you want to look at the nitty-gritty, look at the steps. And I want to emphasize again that it is not rocket science. It's doable. But in doing it, let everybody be careful to protect the interest of the people who are initiating this great amalgamation. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Quantity Surveyor Ifeanyi Anago.
The title is too much.
I'm so happy that you spoke last. You've covered almost everything. I had thought of the overlapping in certain areas, but now making it legalistic has made us to take a lot home. I want to commend all the presenters, because what I've also noticed is that what we call old school in local parlance, analog principles, are now becoming digital. Look at the way we've participated and how our past president, Ajay Lekoko, told me, unmute. We're getting there. Your paper, insightful acquisition, intention of the target companies. That is really, really key. Because when you take over in acquisition, sometimes, there could be frictions that everything has to be legalistic. You spoke about the types which other presenters have mentioned: horizontal, vertical, and conglomerate. And the most important thing here is about the sizes of our practice firms. They're very corporate, which requires a lot of shares, are what SEC, Security and Exchange Commission, deals with. So it is even easier now for us with our small firms to go to CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, to re-register, our practices, after mergers and acquisition. So it's something that you've really, really brought to the attention of everybody. Because I was personally thinking about all these mergers thing, are we going to survive the regulations of security and exchange? But having presented this to us, I think it is a lot easier for those that want to merge to see what they require. Commission. You also spoke about bringing something to the table. With all the companies that we have that are mostly dormant, does one acquire a dead company? The answer wants to acquire your practice. Not just about that personal experience. It is very easy as somebody that is in charge of cost to become a leader of that type of arrangement. So thank you so much. And I believe we've taken note of the questions. So we'll quickly, because time is not on our side, go straight to the question and answer sessions. We will start with past President Olusegun Ayale-Lekoko. I don't know if he has taken note of the questions that has come to him. I haven't recorded anything, so that we can quickly take them within 3 minutes also, and now move on.
Well, Mr. Tuninda, there was one that I noted down, which is has to do with the question asked, what is the Institute doing concerning the continual taking over of foreign firms in consultancy jobs in Nigeria? This is always a very topical issue, but let me say that when consultants, if comes to Nigeria, they are coming on the heel of an investor. If you take the case of, say, South Africa, putting funds down here, or investing, setting up businesses here, their first port of call, of course, is to look at their local professional firms. They bring them in, and you can only tag along with them under a separate alliance or affiliation to be able to get a bite of it. I think, like I said earlier, Nigerians think too much of setting up practicing firms in overseas country, in Africa, for example. It's not going to be possible. The locals are there. You can only set up if you bring something into the country. If you are bringing funding in, or your client is a Nigerian or an overseas partner that you have alliance with, then you can do a one-off job there. It doesn't mean there will be continuity. So saying you are in Zambia, for example, could be on a one-off basis. In the same thing with consultancy firms coming in from overseas. These days, they can only come in to perform one job. They can never be settled in here to attract more jobs. The only job they can get is if there's a large investment flow from their domain, from their country into this country, and you won't blame them if they are being given the jobs to do. The days of having people like Tilias coming to settle in Nigeria and attracting jobs are not going to be there anymore. And even then, I'm sure Tilias of this world now do more of direct foreign investment projects. And that's what we should do. We should try to latch on to investors, developers who are moving around Africa. I know some time ago, UBA was building all over Africa, EcoBank was building. That's when Nigerians could move with them to have a practice. But having to survive in this foreign country depends on ability to bring in fund or bring in an investor into that country. You will hardly be able to get any government jobs. People don't get government jobs here anyway, and the only jobs that are available, sometimes the surveyors are shortchanged. I've seen a CBN project that was given out to so many, as the QS were sub-consultants. That's how far we've gone down the line. Some of us don't do government jobs because we know it's always a problem. So talking along the line of all the discussants, there are 2-3 things that are takeaway for me. That is that we must try to see how we can put a clause for payment of fees. Because what happens is that even in when you have performed the job and payments are not coming, you are shortchanged. Your survival depends on the income flow. So there are that aspect that needs to be looked at. And we must also note that professional practice is a business development. People say, oh, business. Yeah, it is a business development. So you must find ways of surviving in terms of what you can do to enhance your status and profitability. And that's where going it alone is no for now. You can no longer do no one-man business. I know a lot of people, even from my CEP alumni, who will get a job and go. And often after that job is done, you are prostrate because there's no further one coming. So we need to merge, we need to form alliances, we need to look at how we can create jobs. Today, what's making us survive is the art of creating jobs. And we have gone into development, real estate development. It takes time, but you must look at how you can create jobs, then you become dominant, because creating jobs mean you can go into real estate development, you have job to do in there, but creating jobs means today that you have a possibility of accessing fund. Once you can access fund, and that's an area we must train ourselves as QS, then the opportunity to remain in business is guaranteed. whoever can bring fund onto the table or can source for fund is always the champion, is always the winner. So don't let us sit on our buttocks, like I said. We must be proactive, think beyond the box, think beyond the traditional things. In my paper, I said, Arcades are doing a lot of work now under COVID-19, including supplying all the PPE, that's protective equipment, to National Health Service. But we have a lot of work to make. NIQS is 50 years. We should be able to form a think tank of people who can see where are the possibilities. Sitting down to wait on government job is just a waste of time. Some of us have never done it. Like President Onoshile said, we're just in our corner and doing the little private work. But you must go beyond just QS practice in the traditional way. You must look beyond that. And that will be the saving grace. And all these small practices should be subsumed, should merge themselves together if they intend to survive. That's all I have from my side, Mr. Chairman. So I rest my case.
I think you have allayed the fears of the person that asked the question, that most of the times it is usually on a one-off basis that other consultants are coming here to work, and then we should see our practices and all that. Thank you so much, and I hope because some people are leaving, I hope he was around to listen to the answers. So we'll quickly go to QS Motala Ali to see if he can field some questions, briefly, like 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I looked at the questions. There are quite a number that refer to me, but I'm going to match them to just summarize. But before then, I think when I was given the history of the takeoff of Afro projects, there were certain things we missed. And this was what prompted us to form Afro projects. It was the same situation we're at today. 30 years ago, when we felt that the environment was not satisfactory, we now started thinking of what do we do? And that was when we started thinking of coming up with a body that would raise money, raise financing, develop projects, conceive, send the package to the client, and so on. And I think that is what we must have as a takeaway, that today we're in the kind of situation where we need to do that. Secondly, the issue of building assets was one thing I forget, because sometimes our earnings are very little. We don't build the business base. But I think Onoshile gave a broad-based idea there that, look, we're building businesses, so we must build assets. I think what is making Afro projects today should still remain, because we have assets that keeping the company alive, even without commission or patronage. There is huge asset base. And then there's also this aspect of sub-consultancy. I think, I don't know whether it was Ifeanyi that said it, where people come in as sub-consultants, or I think you get a commission. As a conservator, you can be the lead, actually. You can be the lead consultant. When we started Afro projects, we were the lead. Salijo and I were the lead. The engineers joined. So it depends on your own focus or your own, perspective. You can take the lead, or somebody can take the lead in the course of, the process. You find that you can take over the lead, because the most competent amongst you will always take the lead. So on this issue of the farms, I think that's what I would just say. Now there are questions on especially the issue of regulation, Somebody asked whether, somebody raised a question that most of our discussion is on practice farms. We're not talking about construction. I think if we listen very well, the issue is not whether we're emphasizing on practice farms or construction. The issue is that we must have a bread-based business that can have interface in all dimensions. Now, if you're a developer, or rather if you merge with a developer firm, there's going to be a construction aspect. So you can segregate into the business units where one will be responsible for consultancy, an aspect of you be responsible for construction and so on. So I think that we should look at it broad-based, and that's when I said, not even just the built environment. We must sometimes have to go outside the built environment and go into agriculture, into environment, into everything like that. But the important thing is that the component that is your own speciality, I think is where you lay emphasis on, so that in the global merger, you play a role. And that comes me to answer another question, which says whether the engineers, because they are now closing in on us on heavy engineering, you don't have to wait for the engineers to, when I was listing the projects we cited as African projects, I mentioned an NNPC gas pipeline, loop plant, I mentioned Encon, Ajakuta, and so on. It's an engineering firms that match. But we as conservators played prominent role there because we had something to offer. It's when you are operating independently, engineering firm, conserving firm, that they try to, cover you. But when you are in one firm and they realize that, look, they need you. When you look at the big firms like JB, their costing departments is headed by quantity surveyors, not engineers, because they want precision. So at the end of the day, I think what is important is that we should emphasize our own part of our own and ensure that we take the appropriate position, whether it's an engineering firm that you're merging with, or a developer, or a health farm, or whatever it is, the role you should play, I think is what is significant. Now, the issue of registration, whether if the farm is not mainly a conservation farm, or is not just, how do you register such a farm? Yes, we register. Like I said, the current board, based on the previous board's work, is also emphasizing the issue of looking at the possibilities to see whether when you have a certain number of conservators within your practice, whether you can now register that farm. Let's say 40%, 20%, or that there's a director on the board who's a conservator and so on. We're looking at the possibilities, because the truth is that we cannot sit down and fold our arms and think that registration will only be for conservators or conservation practice. It won't work that way.
Exactly.
So this is one of the aspects. So we're going to register that. And there's another one who said, can there be mergers between a farm that is registered and a farm that is not registered with the NIQS and QSRB? And sure, if you are going to present something, I mean, I think I don't know that was Ifeanyi who said, look, the important thing is you're bringing something to the table. No, I think it was initially who said, if I'm acquiring your farm, it depends on what advantage I'm getting from your farm. If, for instance, you are not registered, but you are connected, and by connecting with you, you'll be able to provide service to the bigger group. Well, I can buy over your farm, or I can let you buy over my farm, and we can work together, depending on whether it's going to be merger or acquisition. So I think these are some of the things that, this is some of the major questions. The other one is the issue of governance structure of Afri projects. I said it. I said we structured it in strategic consultancy units, because it was basically consulting. Maybe if it's not just consulting alone, you can have it beyond strategic consultancy units. But we had something. We did one thing, that control, and then we have the operational level. We had two departments, project development and project execution. I was in charge of project development, and Salijo was in charge of project execution. So from conception through to design, costing and everything, and packaging to delivery was under me. And from that point to complete handover of the project was under Salijo. And then we had two support departments, the engineering support department. All the engineering resources, including conservators, lawyers, I mean, the professional supports were under the engineering support department. And if you want 2 lawyers, 5 engineers, 1 conservator, and so on, you just tell the head there, and you get the appropriate people for you. And then we have the resource support, which is like the corporate services, admin, host, passages, travels, personnel, or human resources, and so on, which was headed by Amina. The engineering support was headed by Nurul Rapindadi. And then Abdraman Ayru, who was also an engineer, was the MD, who was just in charge of the control functions, the corporate issues, legal issues, the internal audits, and monitoring and evaluation. So this is how every project was structured. But under it, all the strategic business units or consultants units were headed by experts in the appropriate field. And it functioned that way. So I think that we can achieve all these things if we, like I said, look at the advantages that we draw from those arrangements, and also look at the mistakes that were formed or the constraints that happened, and then structure it. Like I said, it's after this paper, I'll use between now and the weekend and structure my own paper, taking into consideration all these inputs, so that at least we can have it documented. I think that can be done before the end of the weekend. So with this, I think I can stop, but also encourage that when we do that, we must ensure that there is the ISO registration. We also plan exit strategy either as individuals or as businesses, and then we must remain business-like, not just thinking about foreign services. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I want to advise that the next two presenters should feel like one questions each. That is Mr. Nashile and Ifeanyi Anabu, because we want to see if we can round up by 2 o'clock. Thank you so much, Alama Ali. I believe a lot of people now know what their roles were at PTF, pre-contract documentation, SALEO, post-contract and all that. And the fact that a registered firm, can actually liaise with a firm that is not yet registered if he has something to bring to the table. You've also mentioned the importance of acquiring assets, not just money making. And because when things are not working well, I think maybe disposition of the assets, can make the company to still be on its feet. Thank you so much. We'll quickly allow Mr. Nashile to field his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nda. To better your income in the firm, one, I will advise you try and sell more unbundled services. Many of us, we are not very active because we are keeping ourselves under what we call the approved scale of fees, standard QS practice. It's that time you break down what you call QS services into tangible and sellable sub-services. For instance, in the course of being a QS for a client, we have pursued registration of the land ownership, recertification. So we charge for that. That's a separate service. We will not say, oh, where is this on the scale of fees? It's not on the scale of fees. So if you keep pushing yourself on that scale of fees, I'm a quantity surveyor on that scale of fees, you are going to be shortchanging yourself. So unbundle your services. Look at doing other services, project management, arbitration, publications and seminar talking, PPP transaction advisory services. These are some of the things we are doing in council. It helps to bring income from diversified areas for yourself. 2, manage your receivables. Whenever you are in any engagement, make sure you have an agreement and terms of payment. You know what to expect and you know when this payment should be made. They're very important. 3, you must structure each firm must structure its own payment terms. I would strongly advise on this. If you keep holding yourself to the federal government approved scale of fees, you can only charge a pre-contract fee at a certain time and post-contract fee at for instance, pre-contract fee, you will not be paid until the contract is awarded. And meanwhile, you've done so many estimates, you've done many versions of bills of quantities. So there must be a way you must restructure your payment terms. As I submit this, I am paid this. As I submit this, I am paid that. So we need to look into that. And more especially, I will advise the institute board to look into this. Help quant surveyors to unbundle payment terms. Don't tie us totally to approved scale of fees, terms of payment, pre-contract and post-contract. We need to look into this. You must be honest. Honesty, integrity, trusting, and also being trustworthy. They are very important for us as quant surveyors and as professionals. You must, in merger and acquisition, you must be selfless and not greedy. You must have a very listening ear to your stakeholders, especially your partners. Now, so that will help you in bettering your income. Now, construction firms, somebody mentioned, and I think Mr. just spoke about that. Construction, that we're talking about merger and acquisition, we're not looking into construction. That was part of what I said, the vertical merger and acquisition outlook. I am aware of a QS firm and an architectural practice coming together to buying into a construction company in Lagos. I know the QS and I know the firm, but in doing this, you got to be careful. You need to consider regulations. Can you, as a QS, as a practicing QS, consulting QS, have shares in a construction company you are giving jobs to? So you need to be careful in that. So that may check you or may checkmate you in diversifying or in merging with construction company. It's not that you can't do so. And if you're doing so, you must work very professionally. Those kind of firms that you have interest in, you will not give them jobs from your own firm as a consultant. Now, but in also diversifying into construction, you must be careful you are not, because over diversification, when you're moving away from your core energy, your core strength, it may weaken you. So you need to be careful. That's why we're talking about probably merging with more of consultants who are into similar schemes with you. Now, the QSRBN, registration of multidisciplinary practices. Quant surveyors, we are forward-looking, and I found that we're also very amiable. But other registration boards, are they like us? Are they like our QS registration board? So if we are registering multidisciplinary practices, is Current ready to register multidisciplinary practice headed by quant surveyors or promoted by quant surveyors? So I think the boards must come together and agree how they will go on. All the boards must come together to agree how this registration must be. Finally, I will want to admonish firms, all our firms, please let's focus on growth. Focus on growth. That is the bane of our sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Even though we may not meet the deadline of 2 o'clock, let us just go on. You've spoken about honesty, trustworthiness, in measures, and that is what one really needs to consolidate income and to unbundle yourself completely, thinking about other multiple streams of income and not depending so much on the federal government approved scale of charges, and this issue of horizontal merging, that is the like minds, and the vertical, which is more like consortium, dealing with other professionals. I like that recommendation that if you operate with like minds, as in horizontal, that you are still better off than over merging. Thank you so much. So let's quickly go to Ifeanyi and Ago. Please be very brief. I know you may have a lot of questions. I want to also say that the questions that are not answered will be sent to the Institute, and they will have a way of sending it to those that ask the questions. Thank you very much. Unmute.
I've not seen any question, actually. So I will depend on you to let me know what the question is talking about. I'll take it from there, especially.
No, I've not seen either. If you click the Q&A on the screen, You just quickly flip through. You will see the one that has directed to you.
Okay. Which one now? I'm not.
You can just let him give a closing remark, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. No.
Yes.
The president
Okay.
the president will give a closing remark. I want to thank our discussers today immensely, for taking this time out, and above all, being present in time for us to commence in time as well. And we regret that the president and the secretary development was not around in time. So I thank all of you for being patient and still being with us. I still have about 144 out of the 162 that attended still with us today. Let us quickly see if, because Mr. Alufahai is raising his hand. Sally, can you let him just say a word? Then after that, the president will close the webinar. Because Mr. Alufahai is raising his hand. Sally, can you let him? Sally, so can you bring Mr. Alufahai on? He's raising his hand.
Yes, he's available to speak now.
All right.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, past president, and attendees. I just will take very few minutes to make a point on integrated partnership. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, on integrated partnership, particularly for the benefit of the younger generation. But to do that, let me quickly go into history of our foreigners. When they came to this country, they all formed, their firms were all made up of partnership, two, three of them coming together to form their practice firms. But sadly, very sadly today, the firms like Bof, Owete, Osemena, and Nwogu, and the Akijide, the senior apostle, and they are no longer available today. And that is because if those of us that were growing up then, if you look back to the 80s and 90s, when any of these farms, they get their big job and they get their fees, they buy the same type of cars. They're going to build the same type of houses. That was the basis on which they operated at that time. And when the jobs and the money were not forthcoming, alas, it was they had to fall apart. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, we must change with the times. Partnership is no longer talking of Siamese twins. So these days, the focus should be on integrated partnership, which is performance-based. What I mean by that is that if you have three young points of yours coming back to form an integrated partnership, you can have the same name. But the key thing I want to stress is that let them have independent accounts. In other words, if you bring your job, you do your job, you have your account, and then you contribute to a common resources, so to say. So you are able to do most of this job at lower cost. But you see, when you have independent accounts, the friction in terms of what you do with your fee is reduced. But of course, the important thing is that you are able to retain the name. I mean, a partner that is having good performance, good job today will be able to service other partnerships to some extent. And if you don't, then at the time the other partners are getting good job and getting good times, you will suffer the same fate. So there is that need to look at jobs together. There is a classical farm today where you have among the foreigners, you only have one farm today that is still operating. And the three partners are still very much alive, and they are operating as a role model to some of us. And that is because if you are close to them, they are operating integrated partnership, which means they are operating three separate accounts. This is basically what I want to emphasize. And I must say that the discussants, the past presidents, and of course our Ifan and Go, you have done so well You have spoken so well, and you have enriched all of us with your wealth of experience, and I thank you all most sincerely. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the opportunity. You've done a very great job, and we're very proud of you as the chairman of Association of Consulting Points of Yours. That's Tony for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Well, the integrated practice you're talking about, I think we can even be open. It's likely probably the QS partnership with McGregor, and it is also good for the young ones to still remain mentees, to some of these old hands. Thank you very much. Salisu, I would like to invite the president to give the closing remarks. Once again, I thank all of you so much for attending to this webinar. Mr. President.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much once again. I think this morning or this afternoon, we collectively have been able to establish and make a business case presentation. That is where to put it.
Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Business case that is.
Yes. Thank you.
Go on, Mr. President.
Congratulate all of us. We have to congratulate ourselves for being able to promote a business case to our members who actually participated in this program and those who are outside. I'm really obsessed about sustainability of the Institute NIQS, sustainability of firms, and then sustainability of income to our members and their families. That is one area that is really dear to my heart, and we shall continue developing that aspect until we get to the goal. I'm so happy the president of the board, Motoli Gombe, has really introduced another dimension that we should not only limit ourselves to derive income or generate income from consultancy, quantitative consultancy alone, or even engineering and architecture, integrated consultancy income, but we have to also look at some other ways, such as subcontracting, supply management, and so on and so forth. That is very, very important, because it will now mean that firms being headed by quantity surveyors will continue creating values. Value creation is the way to go. As far as we continue creating value that is cherished by the society, and the time in which you are creating value will attract income to you. So income attraction is very, very important. I will again meet the president of the board to discuss that further. And again, want to reaffirm that a lot of things are happening behind the scene in terms of the rebranding projects. Rebranding will now come in to underpin these discussions. We are hopeful that the marketing budgets of all the firms will now it will be crushed by the effort intended to be made by the Institute in the rebranding program. Now, the chairman of the rebranding or NIQS Ambassadors Committee is seated here, past president.
We've lost the president. Sally, if you cannot bring him back, I don't know if we can close.
Tony, I think we can.
Yeah, okay. He's back. Mr. President, can you round up? Okay, I want to thank everyone once again, the patience of the attendees, and especially, the quality of the resource people that we've had today. I want to thank you so much, and thank you so much again for leading us, bringing us for. Mr. President, I just thought you were done.